everyone, and welcome once again to a Hobby Memorial Library event. We are thrilled to have Dr. Leighann Temple. She is over at our CTC Fort Hood campus, and she's going to be talking to us today about what we can do in order to you know, save the planet, like we've been talking about in an environmental series. So, thank you so much, Dr. Tempo, for being here. We are thrilled that you're here with us. We always love having your events. And so, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away.
Thank you first for the invite to be able to join you guys. This is an awesome series that you guys are putting on for the environment, and especially with all the things that are going on right now in Texas and other parts of the world, even. It's a great time for us to be able to talk about this and, of course, share what I love most, which is talking about legislation and how you can push forward to, maybe be the impact that we need for policy change. So we want to talk about how you're going to do that today and kind of connect the dots between everything that you've been learning through environmental science, everybody else, and then of course on the political side, what can you do and how do you go about doing that? So I'm super excited to be with you guys today. Okay, so
Awesome.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So a little introduction. It's a pretty easy presentation. I do have a couple PowerPoint slides, and I will show you how to navigate the Texas Legislator online website, which is probably the most useful tool for anyone who is looking for, any way to connect with a legislator. This is where you're definitely going to want to start if you don't already know who your representatives are. So I'm going to share with you my screen. Oh gosh, look, see, I always have the idea that this is going to go easy and then it doesn't.
Okay.
There we go. Let me just share that now. Not that screen. Is that working?
No, not yet.
Okay. There we go. Think.
There you go.
There we go. I did it. Okay, so
Yep.
it's been a minute. I'm a little rusty. I had
It's
to get
okay.
back in the groove of things. Okay, so now we're rocking. Okay, so let's talk about contacting legislation for environmental change. And hopefully there's a lot of you out there that want to do this. All right, so first and foremost, you want to just kind of look at our representation in Texas and what that actually looks like. We're a pretty large state, over 29 million people. So our districts have actually grown. If you haven't paid attention, we actually picked up a few seats in the United States Congress. So our districts, they need to be proportionate somewhat, in similar sizes. There's plus or minus about maybe 2 to 5%. So the numbers that you're looking at here are actually going to be based off of our last census. We have a decennial census every 10 years, and that the numbers that are reported on that is how we decide our representative districts. So currently, our 2022 districts are going to look something like this. We in our Texas Legislator are bicameral chambers. We've got the Texas House of Representatives and our Texas Senate. In the Texas House, we have 150 members that are elected to 2-year terms. So since we have more members in our Texas House, their districts are going to be a little bit smaller, maybe even a little bit more homogenous, if you will. So they have the ability to connect with our members, a little bit easier than perhaps our senators might. So looking at these numbers, we're looking at about approximately 184,000 to 204,000 constituents in their respective districts. With the Texas Senate, it's a smaller chamber. We only have 31 members that are elected to 4-year terms. And each member is going to represent approximately 893 to 987,000 people in their respective districts, which is kind of a big difference. But again, we tried to keep it proportionate, as proportionate as can be. And there is that give or take, margin of error plus or minus maybe 5% if you look at that. Just looking at our House of Representatives, this is the actual chamber floors for the Texas House of Representatives at the Texas State Capitol. If you have never been there, I highly encourage you to take a field trip. I'm from Texas, so I'm completely biased. I will say that, but it is an absolutely beautiful building. It is very rich in history. There's so much information that you can get there for free. They have guided tours. But I think there's something about going to your state capital where your legislators, your lawmakers are meeting to feel this connection with your state and with your state government. Also, because I like to tell my students this as well, if you go to the Capitol, you realize how actually open our government is. A lot of times we have this idea that our politicians are behind the scenes, they're out of touch, they're not connecting with the people or with the constituents, and that's really not true. Okay, they are, I think I would like to say that they are very accessible. They do have a lot on their plate. They do have a lot of demands that they have to meet, especially when they're in session, having to look at the budget, a 2-year budget at that, and dealing with all these other issues that come across their board, their plate whenever they're in session. But their priority is their constituents. So they're going to listen to us. That's what we elected them to do. So when they get to the Texas House or if they get to the Senate, they are there to work for us. This is our office. My representative Shelby Slauson, she loves to put on Facebook, and I love it. She says this is your office when she's taking photographs and whatever. So, and that really is true for all of them. But this is a actual picture of the Texas House of Representatives. Like I said, it's very rich in history. If you go, you will see all of the detail that make this chamber, I think, just absolutely amazing. But our members. They only serve 2-year terms. So they're elected, and as soon as they get elected to the House, they have to start working. They have to get busy. They have to start working on policy, and they have to start thinking about campaigning in a very short window for the next election cycle, which means they cannot disconnect from the people. So they don't really have time even to stay away and hide. They need to be out in the open. They need to be connecting with us if it's on social media, if it's through town hall meetings, if it's anything that they can do, come into ribbon cuttings. And I'll just go ahead and tell you now that all of our representatives that are local to our area, they're very good friends of Central Texas College. If you've been to a CTC event, you have likely seen one or both or even perhaps 3 of our members, because they are dedicated to serving our community. We're a large military community here, and they are very friendly and they're receptive to that. They understand our very unique needs, and the environment is definitely one of them. So they know that they have to contact and keep in touch with us, and so don't ever be afraid that you reach out to them. And we'll talk about how you do that in just a bit. Just real quick, to be a member of the Texas House, you just have to be 21 years of age, which is awfully young, right? A United States citizen. You must be a qualified voter, just a resident of Texas for 2 years immediately before an election, and then a 1-year resident of your district. So where in the seat that you're running, you must live there for at least 1 year. At this point in time in my class, I would always ask my students, who meets this criteria, and everybody raises their hand. So I was asking, which one of you guys is going to run for the House of Representatives in Texas? And they'll put their heads down like, not me, ma'am, not me. But, actually I do it as a learning tool so that we can look at what our legislation actually resembles. With such minimal qualifications, we don't have very many 21-year-olds that are in the Texas. I mean, it's a relatively older group, right? So despite the minimal age, there are some other informal qualifications, but this is what it takes to become a member. In the Senate, very much smaller chamber. You can see the desks are a little different. I'm going to back up just 1 second so you can kind of do a compare and contrast. Look at the desk there. If you look on the back, there's this kind of roll call board. This is every single member in the Texas House. There's 150 names listed. And when they're voting, you can sit in the upper part of the gallery and watch them vote on a bill. If it's a super important bill to you, like an environmental bill, something that you're pushing for change, and you want to be present to see how your members voting, you can do that. Except in rare exceptions, they will close the gallery to the public, but for the most part, it's open when our members are on that floor. If your member votes, yes, it's going to be a green light. No, it's a red light. Then they have one white, which is present, not voting. So, but you can see how they're all in there together, kind of squished. You've got 2 podiums, and this is where they would debate on a particular bill. The top part up here is where the speaker would sit. Okay, now look at the Texas Senate, very different, right? So this is going to be a lot more, I don't want to say formal, but there are fewer members. There's only 31 members in the Texas Senate. So the desks are spread out a little bit more. They don't have what I like to call it like a bingo board, because it just literally lights up like all these numbers. But they don't have that in the Texas Senate because they do roll call votes. So the secretary of the Senate would come through and just call each member by name, and then they would just vote verbally. So it is a little bit different. The chamber is less rambunctious. It's a little less rough and tumble in the Senate as opposed to the House of Representatives. You get 150 members in there, and everybody, is going to be chit chatting, and you've got some staffers and whatnot. So it gets a little bit more chaotic on the other side of the aisle. But a little bit different terms, 4-year terms for our Texas senators. You must be, again, United States citizen, a qualified voter, 26 years of age, so you got to be a little bit older. And then you need to be a 5-year resident of Texas immediately before the election, and then just that 1-year member of your district before you run. So not too many qualifications in there. I will tell you that someone who is running for the Texas House or the Texas Senate, and really any political office in our state, it could be your local city council or school board. It is a personal choice, and it is not one that I think that any person takes very lightly, because especially in the day of technology and social media, there is a lot of bad campaigning out there, a lot of negative campaigning. Sometimes it's beyond their control. So these people make this decision to serve our state, to serve their constituents in their district, and they're dedicated to that. I mean, these are community servants, true servants of the public, and it takes a lot on them, and their families serve as well. And I think that we are very fortunate that the 3 local representatives and the senator as well share, their families with us as well. So the family walks alongside of them, and you'll see that in almost everything that they're doing. So it's not something that they take on for a profession. That it doesn't pay a lot of money. These guys are making just $7,200 a year. Now, when they're in session, they do have per diem, so it's a little bit more than that, but it's not a full time salary that some people think. We want to just kind of paint that a good picture of a true servant whenever we're looking at Texas representatives in our Texas legislature. I think that's very important. I always try to tell my students that we don't sign up, we don't see our leaders signing up for themselves. They are taking this walk to fight for us. So the door's open, the phones are always answered, the emails are returned. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Just looking at what our districts look like, just locally, we have 3 different districts: District 54, 55, and 59. District 54 is Representative Brad Buckley's seat. 55 is Representative Hugh Shine, and 59 is Representative Shelby Slauson. Now, keep in mind, these are 2-year terms, and this is 2022. So we're in the middle of elections. I believe we have a runoff with Dr. Buckley in his district. So if you're in that area, then you need to be getting prepared for a runoff election there. So these are our current members, which means after the November election in 2022, there is a possibility that this could change. Okay, so the key there is to vote. If you like these members, you're looking at your campaigns, make sure you guys are going out and voting accordingly. And then the Senate rather, our Texas Senate is District 24, and that is Senator Dawn Buckingham. She is currently campaigning to be the Texas General Land Officer, so she will vacate her seat, and this is going to be definitely a new senator. She's running into a runoff as well, so you want to make sure that you're keeping up with current runoff elections. But her term, when she decides if she wins, then she takes that seat. But we'll definitely have a new representative one way or the other. She's not campaigning for her Senate seat in District 24. So these are the 4 local representatives. And again, remember, our House members have smaller, kind of more homogenous districts, and the Senate has larger districts. Not to say that they're not accessible, they most definitely are. Okay. I don't know why the picture looks a little fuzzy. Dr. Buckley looks a lot better than that, I promise, all of them. This is just giving you a little bit of his information. I shared the links to their office, their house office, so that you can get all this information if you need it. But just kind of shows you, he has an office in Austin, He has one in Bell County, in Salado, and then one in Lampasas. So each one of these offices are going to be staffed with, his staffers that are answering the phone, that are working his schedule, that are, corresponding with constituents. If it's email or snail mail, you can send in a handwritten letter. Some people are not online, they're not on social media, they don't have email, and our representatives are very aware of that. So they still will accept mailed letters, and they are happy to receive them. But you could call either one of those offices to get in touch, and just, if you live in the area of Killeen, you probably would go through maybe the Salado office. If you're a little bit more west, then you would obviously contact Lampasas. The Austin office is typically where we would find him when we're in legislative session, which is 140 days out of the year, every other year in odd numbered years. So we won't see a legislative session until January of 2023, and then that's where you would see Dr. Buckley a great deal of the time. Okay, they do have staffers that are there. It's just a little bit quieter in the interim sessions, but they are still working. Okay. This is Representative Hugh Shine. He has one district office in Temple, and this is his information if you were to see him at the Texas Capitol. And I will add, on any given day, if you go to the Capitol, I mean, you're likely going to run in. You could just be walking around and you're going to see members walking all over the place. And it could be your member if you're not familiar with them, or not. So they're not kind of these guarded creatures away from the public. They're walking from offices. If you're in the Capitol Extension, you'll see a lot of movement down there. Walking, they'll have meetings in the hallway. I take tours all the time with my students. I mean, the governors will be visiting. I can't tell you how many times we not physically ran into, but have seen Governor Perry or Governor Abbott most recently when he took office. But these members, they're working. They're there just like you and I at work every day, doing the state's business and the work of their constituents. So the idea that they are closed off it's relatively untrue there. This is Shelby Slauson. These pictures look terrible, and I don't know why. She does not have her district office information. I'm wondering if she might be in the midst of moving locations, because I know she does have offices in several different areas. She has a pretty spread out district. She right now, I will tell you, she's very active on Facebook in general, but given the fires that we are seeing, or with our friends kind of northeast of us all around, she is really working with the local units, local fire departments, the local levels of government to put out information, how others can help. Is it, just providing supplies and whatnot? And so she'll give you access points and whatnot. So I was surprised to see that the district office was not available. So for me, if I'm thinking, then there must be a move. She must be in between office spaces, and that will soon be updated perhaps when she secures those locations and when the next legislative session starts. So just because you see that there's something not available doesn't mean she doesn't have offices. She most certainly does. This is Senator Dawn Buckingham. Remember, she is outgoing Senator Dawn Buckingham, so she is just the current senator for District 24. We will have a new senator after the general election in 2022, November of this year. She has 3 offices that can kind of just show you the size and the difference in terms of the nature of House districts versus Senate districts. So she has one in Abilene, Belton, and Kerrville. So you can see how spread out those are even. They're not very tight knit like the others are. So she's got a pretty large district. And she travels all over the district, as do our members in the House of Representatives. You will see them I'll talk about social media in just a bit, but they're all over the place. They're, in town hall meetings, they're at special events, ribbon cuttings, dedications, any number of things where the community is involved. They're there, and Senator Dawn Buckingham has quite a stretch of land to travel. So she is spread thin as a senator, but does make her rounds and is available to the constituents in her district, our district. Okay, so this is a very important website I want to share with you because you say, okay, thanks, Dr. T. You've told me all about our members and how we can find them, or a little bit about how we can find them. But if you were looking for, an idea of making some type of change for the environment and you don't know where to start, but something is really important to you and you think, I just want to contact my member and share with them. Maybe there's already a legislative effort out there I don't know about, or maybe I just feel like I just need to express, what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. Where do I start? This is the place to go. If you're new to the area, perhaps, or you just are not into politics and you do not know how to find your members, the Texas Legislator Online is probably, I think, the most a utilized tool for me in class, but this is the most accessible way to our government, the House, the Senate, and there's a lot that goes on through this particular website. If you can just see under the Texas House on the left-hand corner, it lists this, who's our Speaker of the House, our members. Each one of the members are listed out. And you can click on their websites, which I'll do in just a second, and you can find all the information that you need. It'll show you what committees that they serve on, what they're working on, and so forth. Same thing with the Texas Senate. Also, if you let me go ahead and click on this. No, sorry. Let me go to my website there because I want to show you how this works. My laptop's not wanting to work with me today. No, it's not going. Okay, well, that's great. We have Don Buckingham. So let me just kind of go back up. My links, of course, are not going to work, but we'll just get to the Texas Legislator Online. Okay, so what we're going to do is look at right here. This is this last session. When you see these numbers,
We have
87.
Can you unshare and then share back again? Because we have a blank screen.
Oh, okay. Let me get back. Do that. I don't have the option, Miss Cindy. Help me.
To unshare,
Yeah, I don't know why.
look at the very top
Yes.
and hit just stop sharing, and then let's just try to share again.
Okay. Am I sharing?
No.
No? We were doing so good. No.
Yeah, if you unshare and then just share your screen as opposed to there we go. Okay.
Are we moving? Are we good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you just need to find it. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there we go. Whew. Okay, so this isn't a wrap. That's why I don't like to use web links. Okay, so these numbers here, this is letting you know when the last session is. So the number is the 87th. If you see a number like 3, 2, or 1, those are special sessions. And then the R is the regular. So we would just go to the 87th regular session. Here, if you wanted to find out who your members were, you would just click on the member and it gives you this full length. Okay, so I'll go ahead and make sure you're on the 87th legislator, just sometimes default. I see Dr. Buckley right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on his name. I'll tell you how you find out who he is. But this just kind of gives you just a quick overview, contact information, his committee assignments, legislative information, bills that he's authored or sponsored, and any of those sessions that you can take a peek at. And then you click on his website and it gives you all of the information about him. So let me just kind of make my screen, my little box a little smaller. You can look at the district map, just gives you all this information. You can click on these, it's very interactive. So you can see how open our government is. These guys actually put all of their work in front of us. They lay it out before us for us to see. There's, no hiding votes, we're going to see that. And so as voters, or as persons who are interested in change, this is what we are going to use for our information. Okay, just gives you a little bit of biography about him, and it would be the same for Representative Shine and Representative Slauson. So let me just kind of take you back to the homepage where you would say, I need to know who represents me. So if we're looking at the Texas House, because you maybe want to start there, you would just click on the home. And down at the bottom, it says find who represents me. Super easy, again, very active, interactive, you click on it. You could put your information here, just kind of ask, what did the Texas House of Representatives do? What is the legislative process? So this gives you a great deal of information about our government. I'm not going to put in an address here, but if you were looking, you would put yours. So I'm just going to put in a zip code, which is 44. Find your representatives. And again, I'm just going to put the zip. And so here, this tells us all of our representatives. This is also for our United States congressional districts, 25 and 31. And then our state representatives, districts 54, 55, and 59. Here's a nice little map. Tells you Senator Don Buckingham, and then also our State Board of Education and our U.S. senators. Okay, so here's this districts for 2022 elections. Remember, I told you that we've had a little bit of a change because of that reapportionment from the decennial census. So this is what we are basing our representation off of this year. Okay, so we're looking at our state reps. You click here, and it tells us. Oh, let me do it up here actually. There we go. So this tells us who they are. Look at that nice, pretty map. So again, 54, 55, and 59, just depending on where you live in these areas. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Then, oops, I knew if I touched it, it was going to zoom out. So let me, my little box gets in the way. Minus that. So you can kind of see 53 is not us, just so you know. I don't know what's doing that, but let's click on that. So that kind of tells you who represents you. Okay, that's the easiest way. Rest assured, if you think you're in District 54, but you're really in 59, I mean, they'll let you know. But if you get the wrong representative, they're not going to turn you away and say, I want to talk to you. Go find somebody else to bug. Not me, not today. That's not how they work. So each of them are there to represent the district, but keep in mind they're also there to represent our state. Okay, so even though you might not be an immediate constituent in their district, they would take your concerns and probably work with your member so that that person can get that constituent outreach that they're responsible for in their office, and then of course they would perhaps go together to a committee or author a bill or something like that. Okay. So the same would be true for the Texas Senate. If you go, and I'll back it up just here to take you back. This again, you would get to the Texas Legislator beneath the House that has a Texas Senate. Here you click on senators and it will give you the full directory, their members, but then again, you get that who represents me. The same tool. So you would put in your information and then the same would populate again. So this is the best way to find out who represents you. You put in your address and it will give you all of your representatives for all the statewide elected offices. Obviously, if you're looking for policy change for the environment, you definitely want to start with your elected officials in the Texas Legislator. Okay. Okay. Am I still sharing?
You got a blank screen again.
A blank screen. Okay, so let me stop my share. Okay, stop sharing. And then get. Are we good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Back to your
great.
PowerPoint.
Okay, so these are the links that I just walked you through, finding who your representatives were in the Texas House or the Texas Senate. And I believe those are shared in the chat, so you can find those. So before I go on there, beyond, sending an email, calling in, on the phone and just saying, this is what I am concerned about. We've had big issues over the past year, with the snow apocalypse with ERCOT you know, all kinds of issues that we're experiencing. If it could be these wildfires, it could be something small in your community like recycling. I live in a small town, and I get so frustrated with my recycling program. I'm thinking, I wish that we could do something better because I just don't think it's as efficient as it could be. That could be an issue that I call up Shelby Slauson, Representative Slauson, say, can you help me push for a better recycling program, right? Any number of things. You are going to pick up the phone, you're going to put a call in, the staffers are going to take your information, they're going to work with you. You're going to send an email. They don't provide their emails on their office page, but there is a link if you go to their actual House page or Senate page through the Texas Legislator online that says email. And when you do, you'll fill out all the information, and then that gets directly to their office. So we want to make sure that there's nothing missed, okay? And so that's managed through their offices that way. And that is online. Again, send in the snail mail, whatever it is that you need to do to get in contact with your members. That is direct contact, right? This is direct efforts by a constituent to try to connect with their members to push for some type of change, okay? Um, I'm not going to say it is the most effective or the least effective. I think that anytime a constituent is picking up the phone to call one of our elected officials, they're listening. Sometimes it could be that their hands are tied. It could be that the issue is not large enough for a very busy session, but don't think that it's going to be unnoticed. So what happens when we do have an issue? We say, well, I really wish I had the time where I could go to the Capitol to meet with my elected official, where I could constantly email back and forth, or I wish I had the expertise. Like, I know I need a better recycling program perhaps in my town, but I really don't know how to go about that. I don't know what's entailed. So what else can I do? And sometimes people will reach out to interest groups, which are not always seen as favorable in the political world. It's like my email alerts are popping up. But anyway, so you say, what can I do besides just reaching out if I feel that that perhaps is not going to be best for me? You can join an interest group. Okay. These are groups. We have groups that are formed, and for every issue out there, there's an interest group, I promise you. But you reach out to them to see what is their mission, what are their goals, does this align with what I'm trying to do? And you guys over the course of the series have probably heard a lot about different issues over environmental concerns. If it's water issues, if it's pollution, if it is recycling, I mean, any number of things. Like, in the bottom left hand, these are giant solar panels. Okay. This is a solar panel farm that is providing electricity, this is the largest in the state of Texas, actually. But maybe you're interested in something, but you just don't understand completely about the topic as a whole. You're not the most skilled or expert on it, and so you think it might just be better if I join somebody's efforts. And that's what joining an interest group would do. Okay, here's a list of just a few, and I'll go through them. Texas Campaign for the Environment. And right here, just look at it. It's take action, take action, take action. This is my favorite one of the websites that I'll provide for you, because it's literally telling you, tell state officials to take accountability for our energy grid. We're calling on leaders to take responsibility for the winter storm outages, ensure our utilities are more efficient, more reliable, and will last for many generations. Okay. And so if you clicked on that take action button, they would tell you what to do, how to join. Tell the EPA to protect our goal from polluting facilities for the plastic industry. This is huge, 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 huge. This is looking at, it said plastic plants need water, lots of it. The Corpus Christi Council and Port of Corpus Christi are proposing to build 2 Baywater desalination plants. So they're giving you the information. And then, of course, I like tell Liberty Mutual to stop investing in pollution and waste, right? All these fun things. But the goal for Texas Campaign for the Environment is empowering Texans to fight pollution through sustained grassroots organizing campaigns that shift corporate and governmental policy. And that's what they're doing. And they're grassroots by foot. These people walk, they go door to door. They're putting out the word for their group and what they represent and what they want, you to do as a member. And the website for them is listed. If I were to click on that, it would take you to, but I don't want to mess up our screen sharing, so I won't do that. But if you did go to the website page, it would tell you all the information that you would need to become a member. It does tell you, if they're a call for action, would give you the resources of who you would need to contact. So it would let you know who your representative is. They would tell you, what we're fighting for, what we're looking to achieve, in terms of policy. So they provide you all this information, and if it reaches out, if you're really upset about that energy grid situation, this could be the group for you, that you could work with. That would also be in touch with our members. I will tell you this, if you ever go to the Capitol during the legislative session, you will see a lot of buzz, lots of folks that are just kind of running around left, right, up, down, all over the place. My favorite place to hang out is the cafeteria, the extension cafeteria. It's called Capitol Grill. And you think, why is that? When do you want to hang out down there? That's where the buzz is at, right? That's where the lobbyists are. All the people that work for the interest group, if they're not on the floor, they're in that grill. They have their laptops out, they're on the phone, they're talking to the home office, they're organizing folks to come and provide testimony. So you can see and hear a lot of business in the Capitol Grill. I think it's a great way to learn about the process even, but just really to see that these are lobbyists that are there to push for change for their members, much like our leaders, our elected officials, are there to push for change and policy for their constituents. That is the middleman, the go-between between us as the constituents and our elected officials. Because let's just say I have a great interest in our environment, but I also have a full-time job. So I can't go to the Capitol 140 days out of the year and be knocking on Dr. Buckley's door, Mr. Shine, or Miss Lawson every single day. Are you working on this bill? Are you looking at my issues? Are you concerned about the environment like I am? I really want to. I would love to, but I don't have the time. And I don't think that, my deans be like, sure, Dr. Temple, just go hang out at the Capitol. I get one field trip a semester, and that's all I can do, right? But somebody else can go on my behalf. And that's what these interest groups are really beneficial for. It's a two-way relationship. It's mutual. It's them working for their members, and it's also them working for our elected officials. They're not just there banging on their door demanding for policy that's in their favor. They're also providing information to our members. So if we were to pick up the phone, I keep saying Dr. Buckley just because he's our local guy, right? He's really a great friend of CTC. So I'm not picking on him for anything except for I'm here and he represents this district. I'm not going to go, knock on his door, the members of the Texas Campaign for the Environment, and just tell them this is what we want. It's not a want, gimme, gimme, gimme. Dr. Buckley's a veterinarian, and he's a very smart guy, but I don't know that he is extremely informed on all things environment. So there might be a gap between the information that he has and the information that he needs to put forth good policy. So in order for him to do that, he's going to have to find it. Well, he's very busy, as you know. He has his own practice here, but he is working for Texans at the Capitol during a session. So what is he going to do? These groups that he can depend on, if he says, I'm with you, and I agree, we need to take accountability, and we need to hold those accountable for this. What information do I need to get to what you're seeing? And then, or this is what I need. And so he can just call them up, send them an email or a text if they happen to come by, and they're going to give him all this information. Of course, it might be a little biased, and so he might need to depend on a couple of groups, right? So he can kind of get the full picture, and every representative is going to do this for us. Okay, so keep in mind with interest groups, it's a mutual beneficial relationship. They're working for their members for the best interest of the issues, and they are providing as much valuable information to our elected officials so that they can make educated policy. Okay, it is a collaborative effort there. Okay, some people say it's just an interest group and they're lining the pockets of our political officials, but they really don't see how these things work. Spend a day at the Capitol and you'll see. Okay, this is the Texas League of Conservation Voters. They have a small group. I think they just have a Facebook page, but basically just tells you they're working every day to ensure lawmakers represent our values through voter education, candidate recruitment, and legislative advocacy. So those there for the conservation, if you want to be a part of that group, then you can. Little information on them. So, okay. This is the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance. This is a big deal. The Edwards Aquifer is a very valuable water resource in Texas, and something that is, I think, probably a contentious debate a lot. And so there's a lot of attention to it in the legislator, and of course, with uh, groups all over. So this is just tells you what they are. They're a nonprofit organization that promotes effective, broad-based advocacy for protection and preservation of the Edwards Aquifer, the springs, watersheds, and the hill country that sustains it. Okay, which is very important. So again, this is a group. If you were to click on their website, it would tell you what they are. As a group, it would tell you how to join as a member. But what I like is these action alerts. There is an action alert. Sign the Pristine Streams petition, San Antonio Stormwater Codes, sign the Fair Oaks Ranch petition. Each of these, if it affected you, you obviously would want to collect more information on that. But if it was something that you're interested in and something that you wanted to be involved with, then you would be able to sign the petition. And this is something that they would be passing on to our elected officials. Here, which I think is probably the best tool, is an opportunity. And it says opportunity, an invitation to talk to the Texas legislator about the TCEQ, okay, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Can I go? Like, sign me up, right? This is an invitation. This group says, come with us. Come and let's share our stories, and let's go and talk to the legislator and let them know what's important to Texans. Okay, this is what we need to do. Here, and it literally says, let the Sunset Commission staff know how well or not the TCEQ has been serving you. Okay, so this is the opportunity through an interest group to be able to connect with our Texas legislators. This is another big group, the Sierra Club. If you've ever heard of this, is of course a national group as well. But we do have a Lone Star chapter, and here's their alert center. Last chance for these good clean energy bills, and they're literally numbering them out for you. So you oppose the bill for Warren Buffett fracked gas power plants. So you can click on these and look at it. Some of these might be dated, but it's just what's on their website. So here it's giving you not just information about the Sierra Club, not just information about the group, how to become a member, not just a call for alert. I mean, this is specific legislation that they're wanting you to interact with. They're wanting you to either get behind or to support or against it. Okay, and contact your members about. And many of these, again, if they have a call for you to connect with your representative, they're going to give you those tools to find who your member is or which specific member they want you to reach out to. Okay, which is important. This is very valuable information. And again, this is, I can still work my 40-hour job. If I want to become a member, I can pay my dues. I'm going to get all of this information. When it's necessary for me to jump in and reach out to my members, my elected official, then I can do that. Okay, so just another option. This is kind of an indirect communication with legislation versus that direct, where you're contacting their office directly. And again, I wouldn't say that either or is better than the other. I mean, power in numbers, sure. So the larger a group is, I wouldn't, perhaps the more noticeable that they are, and the more that they can be at the Capitol regularly and push forth that change. But all it takes is one person to make a difference, one person and the right issue and the right representative, and it can go a long way. So don't be discouraged. Think, oh, I can only make a difference if I'm a part of an interest group. That's not necessarily true. Okay, especially with our members, they're really good about responding to our constituents. Here's Environment Texas, looking for clean air, clean water, and open spaces. Protect the places that all of us love and promote. Those core environmental values: clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and clean energy to power our lives. Focus on timely, targeted action that wins tangible improvements in the quality of our environment and our lives. Sign me up, right? This is where I belong. So, oh my goodness, these weird emails. I'm kidding. Clean, green, renewable energy, right? Conservation, clean water and air. This one's interesting because it also has a federal agenda. So that's important to me because I know that this is bigger and broader than just Texas. Ready? My favorite, social media. Okay, everybody's on social media today, right? All of us, Twitter, Instagram, you're on the gram, and Facebook. So are our elected officials. They have found a way to connect with the members almost instantly. I follow all of our elected officials on social media. I'm not one to post or put anything out there, but I follow because I need information for, when we have weather alerts, or we've got some Fort Hood's, had a electricity outage the other day, and so our members were posting about that, letting us know to be prepared. So I follow those things for important updates and whatnot. But I do see when our members post something, and then I go into the comments to see what other people are saying, and guess who else is there? Our members. They respond, whether it be through a staffer or whatnot. If there is a concern, hey, Dr. Buckley, what are you going to do about this? They're responding to that person. It's not going unnoticed. And so this is an almost instant way to connect with our members. Love it or hate it. I'm not really sure where I'm at, but it is a way. And so, Facebook, this is a great place for you to get a great deal of information. I did not select their profile pictures or their background pictures. Just a disclaimer: this is taken directly from their personal pages. But you will see, Representative Buckley, Hugh Shine, Don Buckingham, Senator Buckingham, and then of course Shelby Slauson. So much of what you might see on their page today might look like campaign information, but it is also representative information. Right now, if you were to go to Shelby Slauson's page, you're going to see a lot about the fires, a lot of information about, folks are having to evacuate up north of us on Fort Hood. We have these great fires that are burning. People in the northeast area, close to Gatesville, Flat area, a lot of folks are having to move their farm animals, their horses. And so Representative Slauson is putting information about where we can relocate these animals safely to avoid any type of devastation because of the fire. And again, she's posting information, and always does, for collecting if there's goods that we need to get for our firefighters, and all that information is being put out. I haven't looked at Representative Dr. Buckley's today, but I imagine because it does affect Fort Hood that he probably is putting something out as well. Okay. So ever how they choose to run those pages is really up to the individual representative. So you will see any number of things on there. It could be just straight business. It could be information about upcoming elections. It could be information on particular bills. But you see that little thing where it says sign up? There's also that button that says message. You don't have to follow them to get information. If you just want to connect and you need to say something, send a message to them. And they're going to respond. And it might just be, can you contact our office, or can we get your contact information so someone can reach out to you? I wouldn't say a lot of business is going to be handled over Messenger on Facebook, but it is a good way to connect if you're not necessarily going through the snail mail route or the email route or anything like that. And again, public pages, so they're accessible. On the gram, so we have Shine for Texas, Don Buckingham, and Brad Buckley for Texas. Representative Slauson had a page, but it didn't look like it was hers. I think she has a private page, but I didn't see her Slauson for Texas page. I'm familiar with her social media, and I was like, I don't think that's hers. So I don't believe that she has an Instagram. So these would be the three for them. We're all on social media daily, so you just follow these fellers, you put them on your phone, and you can keep up with them. It also gives you a way to learn, who they are as a representative, what it is that they're working on. But again, if you want to reach out to them, you can send a message directly to them on social media. They or a staffer is going to respond back with the best way to contact them, or for if they need to get in contact with you, so they can move forward with your issues, okay, which is important. My favorite is Twitter. I love Twitter. So all four of them do have a Twitter profile. I'm not sure how active all four of them are, but I think it's pretty fair with Representative Slauson and Buckingham. Buckley too. I'm not sure how active Representative Shine is, but they're there. And you can follow them, and you can tweet at Don Buckingham or Dr. Buckingham TX, at Shelby Slauson, at Shine for Texas, at Brad Buckley DBM. Are you seeing this? Maybe you come across an article that's talking about polluted waters, in the Gulf of Mexico, and you find that this is a challenge for Texas and it's something that needs to be addressed. At shine for Texas. Are you seeing this? What can we do to improve? And so this is a way for us as constituents to share information that comes across that we might be seeing, or if it's a hot topic and we're starting to see a lot of Twitter momentum, then you can add them. You probably cannot even imagine how effective an at is. It will get their attention. Even the governor. I don't list him here because we're looking at legislation is typically going to be, it's going to start with our Texas legislator. But if it's a big issue and it's something that needs to be addressed, at Governor Abbott, and their office is going to pay attention. Okay, so when they start to see these trends, it is alerting. Okay, so you can definitely see here. You can definitely see there Don Buckingham is a candidate for Texas Land Commissioner. Okay. Um, Lastly, just kind of close out. You think, okay, so I have to contact their office. That's the only way I can get a hold of them, or I have to follow them on social media, or I have to go through an interest group. No, you can go to a town hall meeting. And they have these often to come and connect with their constituents. They want you to know what they're doing for you. They also want to know what they need to be doing for you, what is important to you. So you will see any number of town halls being hosted by our elected officials throughout the year. Show up, be there with your issues and ready to discuss those at those meetings and share your concerns with the members. And so maybe it's something that's not on their radar. The more information that you have, obviously, the better. But even if it's just a small issue that you don't have a great deal of information on, but you know it's a problem and they can recognize that, put the ball in their court and let them do the work. Okay, so you don't have to take everything to them and hand deliver it, because they are going to do. They know who to contact. They have the resources available to them, and they will do it. If it's a big issue, they will take care of those things for us. Okay, all too often we look at town halls that are very poorly attended. Just depending on what time of year it is. If it's an election cycle, sure, you might have a bunch of folks out there, but if it's in between and it's not an election year and they call for a town hall, you might see just a small group attending, and that's kind of the way that it goes. But then we want to say, oh, they're not taking care of us, or they're not meeting our needs. They can only meet those needs that are brought to their attention. Okay, so take advantage. And social media is a great place to get all these information. So you tell them, hey, I follow you on social media. I found out there was a town hall today, and I want to come and share this information with you. And they're going to take that information down. Okay. The other thing, and this is kind of a little bit more involved process, but if you're able to go to the Texas Capitol. Let's just say you've already pinpointed your issue. You know what the problem is. You know what you're trying to push for the change. You understand, what legislative, avenue that you want to take. Maybe you've already looked into a committee. Perhaps there's a bill that's already been filed. You, as a Texas resident, as a voter, you have the ability to go sit in on these public committee hearings. Maybe our representatives are not serving on the committee, but they might be a co-author or a sponsor to a bill in a committee about the environment. And so you can attend that public meeting to hear what's being discussed and what's going on. You can also take it a step further and you can register to provide testimony in that hearing. So if it's a big issue that you want to be heard, you want to go on record about it, you, through the Texas Legislator online, can register to testify before a public committee hearing. Okay. So this isn't just reaching your own member. This is reaching all the members on that committee. And you wouldn't be the only one in the room. Okay. Texans every day do this. And it's probably those that are the most politically active, but it's not always. It's not always. So don't be discouraged. Don't be afraid. Our Texas Capitol is open. Okay. Our Texas legislator is open to the constituents. Everything is available to you at your reach, at your disposal. Take advantage of that. Okay. Reach out to our members. Reach out any means that you can. And connect with them, connect with other groups, connect with other people who have the same interests and share the same concerns that you do. And collectively, perhaps go to a meeting. If there's an issue in our district and you have, 50 neighbors that have the same concern, you don't need an interest group. 50 neighbors can go to, Representative Shine or Dr. Buckley or Representative Slaw, say, hey, this is what's going on and we need your help. And they're going to be there to serve you. Okay, so this is the how to. This is what you do. This is how you get connected with our members, to push forth all of these great changes that you've learned about over this whole series. So, with that, I will leave it for any questions.
Okay, Alyssa, do we have any questions in the comment section? No questions right now? Okay, I just have a quick question.
Yes.
And this may be like an entire semester of information you would have to give me. But you know, we're talking to these four people about
Mhm.
this area. And I always often wondered about this. We're working on changing the world. Um,
Mhm.
but we've got this small section who may decide to do something for water and recycling, and then another section who doesn't do it at all. And then our representatives go to Austin and they come up with bills, and some vote on something and some do not. And does that mean that whatever is voted on the state level is not going to happen in the
Yeah.
smaller, like, where
No, no,
who's
no. So if they
what
vote,
jurisdiction?
so if we go to, or if our members, they vote on a bill and it's a general bill, it's going to affect the state as a whole. So if they implement, let's just say, a water project for their district, yes, that's, just going to be there. But if it's something like, let's just say, a statewide recycling program, they're overhauling the entire recycling program for the whole state, right? Everybody's going to have to get in line with this program. Then everybody would have to do it, right? So if it's a general bill, it does affect the state as a whole. If it's a local bill, then it might be something that is a little bit more narrow to a constituent or a certain district, that they're changing, that they're improving. It could be, infrastructure restoration or something like that. And so that is something that would just affect that local area. So it just depends on what type of bill that it is. But in general, if we want a huge policy change, especially in terms of environmental concerns, if it's perhaps something about the coastal waters, it might just affect one part of the state versus the other. Does that make sense? So we could see some type of preservation efforts for the coastal waters of the Gulf of Mexico. So obviously that's going to affect all of those areas, but not so much Central Texas, because our water system is a little bit different than the Gulf of Mexico. So it really just depends on what type of bill it is and what the bill is aimed at, if that makes sense.
Well, to use your example of just the Texas coast, doesn't affect people who are not on that coast. But do they go to Austin and everybody votes on it? And if all the people who are not next to a coast say, no, you can't do that. I mean, is that
Everybody
how
would
it
vote. Yeah,
works?
no, everybody votes. It has so the process works this way. So once we get a bill, that's been written, or introduced by a member of the Texas House or the Texas Senate, then the first thing that has to happen, it gets read, and then it gets referred to a committee. So once it's in committee, they do all the work there, all the changes. Sometimes it could be adding an amendment. It could just be kind of changing things, and then it's going to be reported out of committee favorably, and it goes to the floors for debate, or unfavorably. If it's favorably, then it goes to the chamber as a whole, the Texas House or the Texas Senate. And there they would debate the bill, and it has to be read on 3 occasions before it becomes law. So once they get to the full House, everybody's going to vote on it, even if it doesn't particularly pertain to their district, because remember, there's still a Texas representative, right? So their priority, not their priority, their primary responsibility is definitely going to be to their constituents, but they also are serving Texas as a whole. Does that make sense? That kind of a little bit better clarification?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the same thing would happen on the Senate. Now, in order for a bill to become a law, it has to go through both chambers. So the Senate and the House would have to agree on one unified legislation before it gets sent to the governor. So yeah, and that is the legislative process is so fun in Texas. It's quite daunting.
Oh, pretty
Because
big.
yeah, yeah. But it kind of just goes to show, And everything is on the Texas Legislator online. Every bill that gets filed, we'll probably start to see early filings in about late October, November. Well, probably November. So we'll start to see early filings, and you're going to get an idea about what the agenda is going to look like for our members. And then, of course, you're going to have bills that are going to be continued to be filed in 23. So you'll get this legislative, kind of snapshot if you just go in and say like today's bills. You click on it and it will tell you what's on the agenda for that day. You can see what bills have been filed, and so you know what they're working on daily. Very, very open, very accessible to the public, which I think is great. And so, and the other thing is too, as someone who is pushing forth legislative change on an environmental issue, you definitely want to start with the Texas Legislator online, because we don't want to just like reinvent the wheel, right? We don't want to just like, oh, this is an issue. Maybe it was an issue for another area last year, and there's already a policy on the books. So we don't want to have to go through all the work and start to do all of these things, research, connecting, whatever, if it's already been something, there's legislation there. So you want to do a little bit of research if you can, and you can look it up by the topic, and it'll tell you if anything is out there already. Right. So, but yeah, now once it goes through the whole committee process, then all the members are going to vote, and it'll be recorded. And then, of course, whatever area is affected or entitled, then that's how it would work out.
Very
Yeah.
cool. This
Yeah.
is amazing. A lot of the political stuff is daunting. I
Yeah.
mean, I could, when I was going to go and vote in the primary, and they're like, for what? You know, who? What are we doing? And it's just like basic, keep looking and you will find, who's running and what their policies are and all this.
Oh, yeah.
So your sites were amazing because I had no clue that that was that easy to do that
Mm.
and to see, what people believe in, what they're working on.
Yeah.
And so you have opened up a whole new world, at
Yeah.
least for me.
Good. I hope so. I mean, that's the other thing too. The common list, this misconception is that, like I said at the beginning, is that our representatives are like they're not accessible, right? They're behind closed doors. They're out of touch, out of reach, and that's just it's not true. I mean, and really and truly, if they're putting their report card like here, this is what I'm working on. You can click on it, you can read, you can see how I voted, you can see what I said. I mean, it's on record, right? These are open records for us. Many of them will even send out what they call a report card to voters at the end of a legislative session. And it's going to detail everything that they worked on. It'll be like 6 or 8 pages. You unfold it and it's like this big and it's beautifully done. But they send that out to let you know this is what I'm doing for you. And they also provide their contact information on there. It says if ever you have concerns, reach out to my office, and you can do so. So this is probably one of my favorite lectures in class is when we talk about the and really any elected official is teaching my students how to contact them, how to connect with them. But don't just connect with them whenever you have a problem, right? You need to follow them. You need to see what they're doing. When they're doing great things, you can take advantage of, and maybe just being aware of what they are doing, pushing for change, if it's economic development, if it's environmental issues, whatever the case may be. If you are paying attention to what your elected officials are doing, you are in a better position to hold them accountable when they don't do what they need to do for us. Right. So we don't want to come in at the back end and say, well, you should have been doing this all along, because we as voters, as constituents, we have a responsibility as well. And that is to pay attention to our elected officials, hold them accountable, and let them know what's important to us.
Cool. Very cool. It's so funny. You said, I only have about 30 minutes worth of information.
It's the same thing.
No,
No,
your classes it must be amazing. So I just,
I'm
every
so
time we
sorry. I
have
didn't
you
mean to keep
on.
you guys that long. I thought
No,
it'd be
no, no,
quick.
you are fine. You are fine. Yeah, so guys, I mean this we just get a taste every once in a while of Dr. Temple's classes. Definitely she's definitely the classes to be taken, but
Yeah,
your
come see us on
information
Good.
your information is always so just spot on and helpful. So we
Thank
truly,
you.
truly appreciate you visiting with us today.
Thank
And
you for having me.
we always think, in fact, when I called and I said, "Hey, would you like to talk on this?" She's like, "That's my favorite subject."
It is that and the court. So whenever it's like legal stuff, let me know. The Supreme
I,
Court, any of the judiciary, I'm your girl. Sign me up.
I All right, we will
Def.
definitely. We love our Fort Hood professors over there, and we always love to invite you guys. So,
Thank you.
thank you. And before we go, guys, I just want to remind you that this Wednesday at noon, we have another night sky tour with CTC astronomer Warren Hart. It'll be at noon, and we will talk about April's constellations. And then next Monday, we have Mr. Bob Ayers, and he is a huge Texas land conservationist. And so he's also a poet. And April is Poetry Month. So we're going to get two for one. He's going to talk to us about land conservation and then also share some of his poetry. So that's exciting. We are just continuing on with our environmental science series. We have space, we have author nights, we have so much on our calendar.
Good deal.
So, as my dean can attest to. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us again. We are thrilled when you all come and watch all of our stuff, and we just hope that you will continue to do it. So, thank you again, Dr.
Thank you.
Temple, and we're just gonna go ahead and enjoy the weather. Have a good
All
day,
right.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. So, Alyssa, if